How are you, John?
How are you today?
I'm well. Thanks for taking
Good.
time and doing this. We appreciate it.
Oh, I'm grateful to you. I applaud everyone in the community that's doing everything they can to turn around the low voter turnout. You know, it's really one of the very first things that I found when I became involved, long before I became a candidate. I found out about this issue and it became kind of a pet project for me. And so, you know, one of the things that I've made very clear about my campaign is that I feel that our number one issue is low voter turnout. And that if we can get more people in the community to kind of get their hands back on the wheel, that we'll be able to really do a better job with our governance process.
I would agree with you. We agree with you.
You sort of dove right in. Our first thing we wanted to know was if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and
Sure.
Why you decided to run this year.
Sure. So if you give me 2 minutes on that, I have some things I'd like to say, you know,
Sure.
and so you guys know my name, it's John Dugan, and you had the good opportunity, Jenna, to meet my good friend Lucy before Michael came on the call, my little dog. But I came here in 2003 in a pretty traditional path with my parents, helping them get into a retirement home. And then in 2010, I became a resident. At this point, my aspiration is really to help the city of Naples follow through on what's been written about many times, the vision. It's often described in the context of character and charm, and I support what's been written there. My goals for this meeting today with you folks is to share why I'm running, my skills and my goals in the event that I were elected. Certainly one of those would be to be working with you folks, because no matter who gets in, there's going to be a lot of work to be done. So between me and my volunteers, we've covered more than 2,000 homes going door to door. And I really became very clear through one-on-one conversation with the voters about the angst and dysfunction at City Hall. There's voter frustration with long meetings, loss of key resources, 11 in the last year, and difficulty getting anything done. There's 5 reasons. This is the second. Voter questions about why councilors voted the way they did. No public discourse or explanation is available. The preponderance of votes at City Hall are 6-1 or 7-0. 3, special interest fatigue. Voters are weary of the need to donate for attention to neighborhood issues. 4, lack of clarity on where candidates stand. They changed their party registrations from Democrat to non-party affiliated and Republican to non-party affiliated and back to Republican. There is a need, 5, there is a need for an independent-minded candidate who will listen to the voters and take action. I'm retired. I have no expectation to gain professionally or financially from this role. These are the reasons I'm running for city council. My skills come from 2 decades plus of management consulting experience with global consulting firm Accenture. I've worked cross culture around the world, cross industry, obviously in various companies and in various companies' business functions. I was never invited into a company when things were going well. My specialty is dealing with difficult situations. I'm always guided by transparency, the ability to understand the implications of decisions, the ability to plan for changes, and the ability to encourage teams. My goals, if elected, would be to fix the governance problem, beginning with what we've already discussed, improve voter turnout. Second would be to protect the lifestyle, with specific emphasis on the natural resources of clean water and beaches. Third is growth preparedness. This is a particular sensitivity in the community. The reality of the fact is in the city, there's not much opportunity for growth, but there is some growth, renovation that goes on in the city properties, and we need to do a better job understanding those implications. But further, we need to do a better job with the out of the city growth, and we need to have a plan with the county. Fourth, it's about public safety. There's been a bit of a problem at the police department. We've lost 25% of our people. There's a compensation problem and benefits problem there that's turned into an emotional issue that needs to be rebuilt. And finally, as I said to you earlier, it's my skills that I think introduced at City Hall at this point might be able to get in between the groups debating what needs to be done and struggling and help them chart a path forward. That's my goal.
Thanks. Appreciate that. It's a great rundown.
Thank you, sir.
So maybe just to You mentioned a few things about your top issues, and I think those are fairly clear there. If I got them right. We're a business association, obviously, and have an interest in the economy. And maybe to get your feel a little bit on just business sustainability in Naples. Oftentimes, people don't think about the business side of Naples. We just think about the luxury tourism or luxury visitor or whatever it may be side. But there's a business side as well. Do you have any feelings about how do you approach businesses and keep that sustainability of the Naples economy?
Okay, so there's three things I'd like to talk about there. The first one is one that I call brand sales. You'll find that under my suggestions if you look on my website. The second one is the need for continual investment, particularly in areas like the business investment district. And the third one that I'd like to speak about is something called Our People, which I feel is a big gap in the vision document that was developed many years ago. There are 5 existing sections of that vision document, but they missed a topic called Our People, in my view. So brand sales. In my view, Naples has a brand, and it's the crown jewel of Southwest Coast Florida, okay? And it's my view that we should continue to be a place that people want to come to, and the people that are here should have the best amenities and services in whatever industry or area of commerce that they're interested in. It's my view that those people that are here with the knowledge and experience could be structured into what I characterize as a brand sales team. If you look on the website, you'll see that I've proposed a new service model for the city, and maybe we'll talk about that more. But one of the elements of it is brand sales, and it's my view that we could get the best and brightest on a committee, and they could direct the other committees and boards with regard to outbound sales of our brand to companies that we might like to have. For example, we might like to have a nice hotel brand here on the beach that people could access as an amenity and service and use. So hopefully that's clear as just one example. The second piece of it is investment in our business. It's been brought to my attention by multiple people that what we do is the city has not followed through on investments that they have committed to in budgets of the past. And that we really need somebody who, when decisions are made and they're budgeted, monitors to make sure that those things happen and there's not change later on. Because in fact, the businesses are bringing those things forward, they're getting them approved, and then they're expecting them to happen to contribute to the attractiveness of their business. And we need to continue to do that. The last piece of it is actually one that is of most concerning to me in the pit of my stomach, which is the commerce here is driven by the consumer, okay? And one of the things that's going on is the value of real estate is going up here. And in walking door to door to these homes, regardless of the neighborhood, and I want to say that again, regardless of the neighborhood, people are raising concern with me about, well, if the value of the property goes up and the taxes go up and the insurance goes up and the associated fees go up, am I going to be able to afford to live here and age in place the way I plan and enjoy the community that I've invested? And so I think we need to take a real hard look at, how are we managing our economics to make sure we protect the people that have made the investment? And it could mean things like over time, we may have to take a step back in our mill rates. We have a fiscal responsibility to protect the people. And if the property values are going up, we may not need as much of a mill rate, and we may be able to have a give back to the people in that form. Those are the 3 things I would give you on that topic, Mr. Dalby.
Thank you. Thanks. Jenna, do you want to ask some questions?
Yeah, you mentioned sort of the need to redevelop in some areas. We can't really grow, but there is redevelopment happening. Could you talk a little bit about your approach to redevelopment and how you can balance that with residents' quality of life concerns?
Yes. Again, I have a very specific suggestion on how this should be implemented that I'd like you and others to look at on my website, okay? It's called Clarify, it's number 2. There's really 2 pieces of it. The first one is residents' agenda. okay? Right now in our community, the residents' input to the community is delivered primarily through something called the President's Council. That's where they go for information. That's made up of 17 HOAs and the Old Naples Board, Old Naples Association. I'm thinking that over time, we need to get clear on our residents' agenda. What do the residents really want to do about growth, Jenna, is the question that you've asked me. So I want to take a step back and make sure we have very clear conduit to what the residents are saying now. The second piece of it is, if someone's coming into the city and they want to make a change, they're going to come through, in some likelihood, either a petitioner or through a resident. When they do that, the problem that we're having with the growth right now is that there is a view that there is a no growth view existing in the city, a voice that's been delivered on that topic. I'm finding that there's other voices out there that are saying other things. When you take a no growth view, you'll see in my model that down here I have all the departments listed. And this is really intended to be an operating model framework, so that when a petitioner comes through at the top and asks something of the council, at that time we can do an implications assessment with each one of the departments and each of the committees and boards. And we can have a checklist or a receipt coming out of the meeting that says what needs to be done by when to get back to that person. Or if there's a no, it'll be clear then. But the point then is that the expectations are set up front. If we take a no growth position, then the projects, what we're seeing is the projects are happening anyway. That creates acrimony and frustration in the community. It's my view that we don't have a buildings and grounds issue in Naples. We're starting to have a cultural issue because people are getting upset about the changes happening. Then they have acrimony, then they have frustration, then there's uproar, and that's not good for any community to have.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
There's some pretty big projects that are coming forward or in the pipeline. Just, do you have any, can you sort of maybe talk to us a little bit about your thoughts on the Naples Beach Hotel, the Four Seasons project, NCH's cardiology project, maybe some of those large scale projects that are happening right now?
Well, the first large scale project that we need to focus on, in my view, is the beach outfall pipes removal. Mm-hmm. And it's my view that the first thing we need to do is revisit that and make sure we have a good plan for following through on that. The most important natural resource we have here is water. And we need to take that on and make sure that we have clean water. And if you want, we can come back to that. There's quite a bit that I could tell you about my view on that. The Naples Beach Hotel, to me, is an example of a situation where the implications of a decision were not well considered across all the departments in understanding what happened. And I think that it's very unfortunate for all parties involved that what came out of what should be absolutely a world-class amenity and service to the community is backlash that we're still debating. And so from my standpoint, and you should really look into this, because I believe that there are other candidates that have a very different position from me and will probably continue to have, because of the way they came into this, they'll continue to have comments that will be, in a direction that may slow that down. And, I'm all for smart growth. I'm all for doing the right thing. I'm not talking about building heights here. I'm not talking about density changes. I'm not talking about any of that. But fair is fair. And if you make a deal with something, particularly in the context of business and commerce, and you sign a contract, then you should be following through on that. And if you're going back for changes after the fact, you should be gracious. And you should try to sit down and have a way that becomes a win-win workout for everyone. So, in general, I think the right brand was chosen for over there, the Naples Beach Hotel. And I think it can be a first-class area. And I walk that beach weekly on Saturday for lunch the way it was, and I plan to in the future. As it relates to the Naples Community Hospital, the third point on this topic, okay? What I'm hearing from the community that has an average age of 67 is that they want absolutely world-class 21st century healthcare available to them in downtown Naples. Now, what I understand from the Naples Community Hospital is that they're asking for effectively a 6-foot variance on that building. And they're asking to bring in a world-class heart and stroke institute. And because of the way that I came into this campaign and the fact that there is a large number of special interests that are now operating in the city of Naples because of the low voter turnout, the special interest came in over the top. There is a concern about appearance of favoritism. So if I were elected, I would be working with the hospital in the community to make sure we had absolutely the best 21st century world-class medical care in downtown Naples. One of the questions that arose was, should the 4110 district be more about shopping and appliances and commerce, or should that become the 21st century medical center for Naples downtown? You have to remember, particularly people that live south of the city, and when you have a heart attack or a stroke, minutes matter. They can't go to North Naples. It all has to happen here, and it has to be the best. So I would certainly work with any medical entity in the community to be bringing the voters and residents here the very best of medical care.
Thank you. Thank you. You mentioned a little bit about the city staffing, and that's something that's been a little bit of a concern to us. Some key staff members having lost them, and seeing some slowness in trying to refill those positions. A number of other issues going on, like you mentioned as well, dealing with pay and benefits. How do you try to address that issue?
Yes, sir. So my business for more than 2 decades was a human resource business. It was a management consulting business, and we did not have very many assets. Okay, so the point is that my experience in life is with people that show up at 8 o'clock in the morning and they go home at 5 p.m. And it's very important that they show up the next day. And I can tell you that in the course of my career and training over the years, there's been tremendous training given to how to clearly communicate with employees, make sure that we're doing competitive salaries and benefits, making sure that they know what their expectations are, and giving them feedback on either a project or quarterly basis so that they understood where they stood, where they were doing well, and where they might need to improve.
Right.
I can assure you that it was an up or out organization, and the best people rose through that process, and that I would expect to be able to help the people that we hire be successful. It's part of why I put this together. This diagram is an operating model for the city, okay? And what it does is it very quickly allows executives to talk about, almost in a heat map type basis, where a change may need to happen, where the surrounding parts of the change are, so that you can do a very fast scan and say what needs to change. Now, obviously, this operating model would be staffed. Each box would have people in it. And those people would need to understand their interrelationships with the boxes around them or the functions around them, so that they knew how to operate and what was expected. And in the end, what you want to know is that any event that is presented to the service model, that it can respond to, and it knows how to respond in an efficient and effective way. This becomes a basis for being able to sit down and give people roles and responsibilities. I happened to read over the weekend an email that came from City Hall that described the needs for the new city manager. And obviously, while it's a very high-level document in terms of what it describes, the way I believe you make people successful in their job is you provide them structure of what the job is so that they know what to do and what's expected. Hopefully, I've been clear with you on my reaction to the 11 resources that have left. I'm certainly most disturbed about the city manager and the fact that we lost the director of streets and stormwater, where our most significant and strategic investment is going to be going on next year. I, like probably any business member of the community, would be concerned about a government that was understaffed, or not ready or not having the skills. And I think most people at this point who've had accomplishments in their career in the city of Naples and beyond know that attrition is usually the least attractive alternative in an HR situation, because whenever that happens, you're losing knowledge.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Do you have any questions for us or any things that maybe you looked a little bit about our position statements or?
Well, the question, honestly, it's kind of what I took to Mr. Dalby at the beginning of this conversation, which is, you know, for me and Jenna too, obviously, for me, we're starting to get down to the end of this in actuality, in terms of the campaign. And so, you know, what I need from people like you and every other organization I talk to is I'm coming in here as the new guy, coming in here with a very different message and experience than anyone else. And if I am elected, I'm going to need the support of organizations like yours to get involved in the issues that we've talked about here, and quite frankly, many more. I mean, I envision having people in each of the precincts, in each of the customer segment areas of our community involved. And so, you know, tell me a little bit about how you think I would best work with the Chamber of Commerce in the event that I were elected.
Sure. No, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, what we have done each year is obviously work with our board of directors, which you can go online and see. We have over 55 members of our board of directors that give us input and guidance on what they see as the critical issues in the community, thinking countywide. I mean, we're not just covering Naples, we're covering the entire county and doing some regional work as well. And so we'll come up with our legislative agenda, and we'll have issues that we feel are important from a business standpoint. And those can be things like you know, the workforce training initiatives, water, housing affordability for workforce, trying to address issues like those. Once we have those kind of agendas, then what we're going to do is meet consistently, practically every quarter, one-on-one with our elected officials and talk down through, okay, what are you trying to accomplish and how does that match with what we're trying to accomplish, and how can we work together to try to reach our ends? You know, it's trying to open that line of communications. We may not always agree on everything, but at least to be able to explain where we're coming from and why we feel like certain issues are important. And oftentimes it has to do with what you talked about, kind of the overall image of our community, what we're selling. Our greatest economic driver is the transfer of wealth that comes to us from other locations. It's money that was made someplace else and then it's brought down here into our community, and it becomes that consumer economy. And now you're buying a house, you're buying cars, you're buying services of all different types. And that's what pretty much makes our economy hum.
Right.
So in order to keep that going, there's certain things that need to be in place, and people need to be able to count on those, like infrastructure that works, infrastructure that's preparing for the future. You know, these infrastructure projects can take 10, 20 years. And if you just keep kind of reinventing the wheel every 4 years, it makes it very difficult to be able to get anything done. I think the other piece of it is the concept of the relationship with the county and the business community in general, because we're one big community. You know, so many people have Naples addresses, and so they just assume they live in Naples, even though they live in the county.
I've bumped into that quite a bit.
Absolutely, and you will even more if you get elected there. So, and so at the same time, what that really communicates to you is that people see us all as one, and trying to do the things in concert together with the county and with the city, not creating these walls or creating these adversarial type relationships that really actually doesn't do any good on either side of the equation. Those are the kind of things that for us help us to have that sustainable business environment, help us to have a predictable, sustainable economy that people can sign up to and say, yep, this looks like a good place to be.
I appreciate you giving me that overview, and I would certainly welcome meeting with you soon after the election, in the event that I were elected. I think I see a lot of similarities and things I'd like to talk about with you in terms of making things work better in the future. Yeah, I see the time here. If I can, I'd take a minute or two for a closing. Is that okay, Jenna?
That's
Absolutely.
great. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it's my view that we are at a crossroads here in kind of getting to what Mr. Dobby just said in terms of working all as one. We have a conundrum, okay? Many care, but more than half are not voting. So it's created a vacuum in the community where special interests have filled the vacuum and are influencing the outcomes. And it's my view that we all need to take back control of our city, okay? If you elect me, what you're going to see is more of a future focus, not a past focus, a bigger picture orientation, leaving the details to the department heads. I'm interested in tracking the progress of the things we sign up to do on behalf of the residents and reporting back on a regular basis. We need to build community engagement. As you're doing here, we need to help the residents be informed, and the more informed they are, the better decisions they'll make. We need to increase the city council interaction with the residents. You know, we could work to a place where each councilor had neighborhoods or an area that they were responsible for the issues and priorities and bringing those forward and shepherding those. Yeah. We need to make our common foe voter apathy and indifference. We need to encourage the turnout well beyond the 15 to 29% that has elected the recent councilors. We need to lift the city of Naples. It's the jewel of Southwest Florida. I do believe we have work to do on what the existing comprehensive plan is. I don't believe that that's an implementable document. It needs to be rationalized and normalized for implementation. We need to stamp out the special interests. We need to watch out for the people that are saying, what's in it for me? I'm the only independent-minded candidate. I'm not special interest driven. I'm here to represent the residents of Naples. I'd like you and your organization to vote for me on February 1. Thank you so much for your time, folks.
Good job, John. You did an excellent job. We appreciate that.
Thank you so much. You know, we're a resource. So if you have any questions, please.
Well, like I said, if I get elected, I'll be getting right back to you because, you know, we have work to do, and I'm grateful for your time this morning, and anything you can do, obviously, I'm appreciative. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.